Welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten worlds. Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never miss a new movies and story from this channel. Nobody on station K47 would go near docking ring 12 anymore. Cargo. Bots stopped using that corridor. Guards walked the long way around. Even the loud traders, the ones who feared nothing but empty profit screens, fell silent when the door to that ring slid open. They said something lived there, something cursed. They said it was a child. The first time the rumor started, people laughed. A cursed alien girl was good for jokes and cheap drinks. But then the maintenance worker who saw her refused to speak again. The sanitation drone that rolled into the ring came back covered in frost, its circuits burned out as if it had tried to scream. After that, no one laughed. They just avoided the place. On the outer camera feeds, you could sometimes see a small shape sitting beside the emergency bulkhead. Thin, still, always alone. She never begged, never moved much. Just watched the hallway with wide, glowing eyes that reflected every passing light. Some said she killed anyone who got close. Others said she carried a plague. One trader swore his friend had tried to help. Her and his suit alarms went wild before he even reached her. The story changed every day, but the ending stayed the same. Don't touch the cursed girl Dot, so she stayed there, day after day, in the cold metal ring where the station's heat barely reached. Ships docked on the far side and left again. Crates were rerouted. Life went on, carefully, deliberately. Around her Dot, no one noticed how small she was. Dot, no one noticed how she wrapped her arms around herself when the lights dimmed for station night. No one noticed that she flinched every time a door hissed open, as if she expected something worse than being alone. Until the human arrived. His name was Elias Ward, and he was late. Late for his cargo inspection, late for his payment, late for almost everything in his life. He moved through the station with a tired walk and a patched jacket that had seen too many atmospheres and too many repairs. Humans were not rare in the trade lanes, but they were known for one dangerous habit. They looked where others refused to look. Elias first heard the rumor from a fuel clerk who wouldn't meet his eyes. "Don't go near ring 12, the clerk said quickly. Bad luck, bad air. Just don't. That was enough to make Elias curious. He took the long corridor anyway, boots echoing in the empty passage. The lights were dimmer there, flickering, with the slow pulse of failing power. No voices, no machines. Just the hum of the station and the distant thud of docking clamps far away. Then he saw her Dot at first. She didn't look real. Just a small shape sitting against the bulkhead knees, pulled to her chest. Her skin shimmered faintly, a pale silver blue, like frost under starlight. Thin arms, bare feet curled against the cold metal floor. And those eyes, wide and reflective, fixed on him the moment he stepped into the ring. She didn't move. Elias stopped walking. His stories rushed back to him all at once. Cursed, dangerous, deadly. The empty corridor suddenly felt much longer, much quieter. His suit display flickered as if unsure what to read from her. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then the girl did something no cursed monster in any spacer tale had ever done. She shrank back, pressing herself harder against the wall, and lifted one trembling hand as if to shield her face. Not a threat, a defense. Elias felt something twist in his chest. He took one careful step forward. His boot echoed like a gunshot in the silence. The girl flinched. Not with anger, not with power, but with fear so sharp it was almost visible. "Hey," Elias said softly, his voice rough from recycled air and too many long hauls. "Easy. I'm not going to hurt you." The words sounded small in the huge, empty ring. Her eyes stayed locked on him, watching, waiting, as if she had heard those words before and learned not to believe them. A warning light blinked on the far wall. His suit pinged with a low alert. The station's atmosphere in this ring was colder than regulation, thin enough to make breathing uncomfortable without a helmet. No wonder the others stayed away. No wonder she looked so weak. Elias hesitated. Every instinct from years of survival told him to leave. Don't get involved. Don't pick up problems you can't sell. Don't walk toward the thing everyone else avoids. He should have turned around. Instead, he took another step closer. The girl's breathing quickened. Frost formed where her small hands touched the metal. The air around her shimmered, just a little, as if the cold followed her dot. So that was the curse. Not death, not poison, just cold. A child freezing in a forgotten docking ring while an entire station pretended not to see her. Elias swallowed hard. His jacket suddenly felt very warm. "Kid," he said quietly, "you're going to freeze out here." She didn't answer, didn't move, but her eyes dropped for a second to the thick fabric around his shoulders, then snapped back to his face. Hope, sharp and dangerous, flickered there. And that was the moment Elias realized something that made his stomach sink. She wasn't waiting for someone to save her. She was waiting for someone to try, so she could warn them away before the cold hurt them too. Even now, she was shaking her head, just a little, as if telling him to stop. As if she believed she was the danger. Elias looked down at the thin metal floor, at the frost spreading slowly. From where she sat, at the empty corridor where hundreds of people passed every day and chose not to see. Yeah, he muttered to himself. Real cursed. Then he reached up, unzipped his worn, patched jacket, and stepped forward into the cold. The cold hit him immediately. It wasn't normal station cold. It wasn't a broken heater or thin air. It was a living cold, sharp and heavy, pressing against his skin the moment he crossed an invisible line around her. His breath turned white. Inside his visor, warning icons blinked across his suit display, temperature dropping faster than any safe level. The girl's eyes widened. She shook her head harder now, small hands pushing weakly toward him as if she could stop him without touching him. A faint sound escaped her throat. Not a word, just a strained, desperate noise. Hey, Elias said, forcing a calm tone, even as his fingers started to numb. It's okay. I know what I'm doing. That was a lie. He had no idea what he was doing. Frost crept over his boots. The metal floor groaned softly under the sudden temperature change. His suit tried to compensate, pumping heat, draining power. A red line appeared on his wrist display, counting down the safe exposure time. 30 seconds. The girl saw it. Her gaze dropped to the glowing numbers, then back to his face. Fear turned into something worse, guilt. She pulled her knees tighter, trying to make herself smaller, as if reducing her size would reduce the cold. I'm the problem, her eyes seemed to say. Leave. Elias ignored the timer. Up close, she looked even younger than he first thought. Her skin shimmered with tiny patterns like ice crystals. Her lips were pale. She was shivering, but the cold around her was still spreading, as if her body couldn't control it. Not a weapon, a sickness. Kid, he said gently, kneeling despite the cold biting through his suit. You're not cursed. You're just cold. She stared at him, confused, as if no one had ever used that word for her before. 20 seconds. His hands were stiff now. He pulled the jacket off his shoulders. The moment the warm lining left his body, the cold slammed into him harder, stealing his breath. He gritted his teeth and pushed forward. The girl tried to crawl backward, panic flashing across her face. A thin layer of frost spread faster with her movement, climbing the wall behind her. She wasn't trying to escape him. She was trying to protect him. "Stop," Elias said softly. "You're not hurting me." That was another lie. His teeth were already chattering. 15 seconds. He wrapped the jacket around her anyway. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the frost stopped spreading. The air didn't warm, but it stopped getting colder. The jacket's thick fabric blocked the direct contact between her skin and the open air. She froze, eyes wide, as if she couldn't understand what had just happened. Her small hands clutched the jacket slowly, carefully, like it might disappear. The timer on Elias's wrist kept falling. 10 seconds. Without the jacket. The cold hit him fully now. His suit alarms turned sharp and loud. His breath came in short bursts. Ice formed along the edges of his gloves. His knees felt weak, but he stayed there, watching her. "You see?" he whispered, forcing a smile she probably couldn't see through the frost on his visor. Not cursed, just needed a jacket. For the first time since he had entered the ring, the girl moved toward him instead of away. It was a tiny movement. Just a few centimeters. But it was enough to break something inside him. She reached out. Her fingers stopped just short of touching his glove, trembling, afraid of what would happen if she made contact. The cold around her pulsed once, reacting to her fear. Elias didn't pull back. "Go on," he said quietly. "I'm tougher than I look." 5 seconds. Her hand finally touched his. The cold surged up his arm like liquid ice. His vision blurred at the edges. His suit screamed in protest. But her touch was gentle, barely there, more like she was asking permission than making contact. And then something unexpected happened. The cold didn't get worse. It stabilized. His suit readings flickered, confused. The temperature stopped dropping. The frost on his gloves stopped spreading. The system recalculated, alarms lowering from critical to warning. The girl blinked, looking from their joined hands to his face, then to the jacket around her shoulders. The panic in her eyes faded, replaced by something fragile and new. Trust. Not full. Not safe, but the first piece of it. Elias let out a shaky breath. "Yeah," he murmured. "We're going to figure this out." Behind them, at the far end of the corridor, a door slid open. 2 station guards stepped into the ring, weapons raised, faces hidden behind sealed helmets. Step away from the entity. One of them shouted through an external speaker, "Now!" The girl flinched violently, trying to pull her hand back. The cold spiked again, reacting to her fear. Elias tightened his grip, just enough to stop her from retreating. "She's not an entity," he called back, his voice hoarse. "She's a kid." "Last warning," the guard said, aiming directly at her. "That thing is classified as hazardous." The girl's eyes filled with terror. The cold began to surge again, frost racing across the floor toward the guards. Elias turned, placing himself between the rifles and the small figure wrapped in his jacket. "Then you'll have to classify me the same way," he said. The cold roared around him, alarms blaring, as the guards hesitated, unsure which was more dangerous. Now the so-called cursed alien girl, or the human who refused to move. The guards did not fire, not yet. The rifles stayed locked on target, but the hesitation was clear. Station protocol did not have a clean answer for a human standing in front of a classified hazard with his hands open and his suit alarms screaming, "Move!" "Aside," the first guard said. "You are interfering with containment." Elias shook his head slowly. Frost cracked along the edge of his visor. "Containment? She's freezing to death. She is the source of the temperature anomaly." The second guard replied, "Orders are to secure or eliminate." The word eliminate echoed through the empty ring like a dropped tool. The girl heard it too. Her grip on Elias's hand tightened. small fingers trembling. The cold surged again, crawling across his arm, biting deeper this time. His suit display flashed new warnings. Power reserves dropping fast as the heating systems fought a losing battle. But he did not let go. She can't control it, he said. Look at her. She's scared. Step away. The first guard repeated, voice sharper now. Behind their helmets, they were afraid. Elias could see it in the way they leaned back from the spreading frost, in the way their rifles shook just slightly. They weren't here to help. They were here to make the problem disappear. The girl pressed closer to Elias's side, the oversized jacket swallowing her small frame. For the first time, she wasn't trying to push him away. She was hiding behind him. That changed everything. Elias reached up with his free hand and slowly removed his helmet. The cold slammed into his face like a wall. His breath turned instantly to white mist. Pain shot through his lungs, but he forced himself to keep breathing. Human, the second guard warned, reseal your helmet immediately. No, Elias said, voice raw, visible in the freezing air. You want to call her a monster? Then look at me while you do it. The guards froze, caught between protocol and something they weren't trained for. A human without a helmet in. A sub-zero docking ring was not logical. It was not safe. It was not something their manuals covered. Elias knelt down beside the girl, moving slowly so she wouldn't panic. Hey, he said softly, his words coming out in short bursts of fog. Listen to me. They're scared of you because they don't understand. But you're not a weapon. You're just cold. Can you try something for me? She stared at him, eyes wide, reflecting the flashing warning lights. Try to breathe slow, he said. Like this. In and out. He exaggerated the motion. Slow and steady. At first, nothing happened. The cold still pulsed around her, reacting to her fear, to the guards, to the tension in the air. Then, very carefully, she copied him. A small breath in, a small breath out. The frost stopped spreading. The temperature didn't rise, but the violent spikes settled into a steady, manageable cold. Elias's suit alarms shifted again, dropping from critical to high. Warning, the system recalculated survival time. Longer now. The guards noticed. What is happening? The first one asked quietly. She's stabilizing, Elias said. Because she's not panicking. The girl kept breathing slowly, eyes locked on his, using his rhythm like an anchor. Each breath reduced the wild fluctuations of temperature. The docking ring was still freezing, but it was no longer deadly. She's not a curse, Elias continued. She's an untrained cryo-adaptive, probably from a low-temperature species. She got separated, scared, and her body reacted. That's all. The guards lowered their rifles slightly. Uncertainty replacing fear. Station protocol liked categories. Hazard, cargo, survivor. Once something had a label, it became easier to manage. But this situation did not fit a clean label anymore. She froze a sanitation drone, the second guard said, because it rolled up on her while she was panicking. Elias replied, Look at her now. She's not hurting anyone. The girl shifted, still holding his hand, and slowly pulled the jacket tighter around herself. With the fabric insulating her skin and her breathing steady, the cold field shrank, retreating to a thin layer of frost around her feet. For the first time, the metal floor beyond a few steps was clear. The guards saw it. One of them lowered his rifle completely. She stopped, he said. Yeah, Elias answered. Funny what happens when someone doesn't point a gun at a kid. Silence filled the docking ring. The station alarms faded to background warnings. The girl looked from Elias to the guards. Fear. Still there, but no longer overwhelming. She didn't hide completely behind him this time. Progress. The first guard finally spoke. Slower now. Command classified the subject as hazardous due to lack of response and environmental damage. Did Command ever try talking to her? Elias asked. No answer. That was answer enough. The girl tugged gently on Elias's sleeve, drawing his attention back to her. She looked up at him, then at the guards, then back at him. Her lips moved slightly, forming a sound that was almost a word. Zay. She tried, voice faint and cracking from cold and disuse. Elias leaned closer. It's okay. Take your time. Her throat worked again. Say? Fe? The word was small, broken, but clear. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. Yeah, he said softly. You're safe. The guards exchanged a long look. Hazardous entity did not ask if it was safe. A child did. The first guard keyed. His unit. Control. This is Ring 12. Situation update. The subject is not hostile. Repeat, not hostile. Static answered, followed by a confused voice. Clarify. The guard hesitated, glancing at Elias, at the girl wrapped in a human jacket, at the frost that had stopped spreading. Subject appears to be a minor, he said finally. Requesting medical and xenobiology support instead of containment. There was a long pause from Control. Then, approved. Elias let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The girl's grip on his hand tightened again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was relief. And for the first time since she had been abandoned in docking Ring 12, someone was coming to help her instead of to get rid of her. Elias leaned back against the cold metal wall, exhausted, visor frosting over, suit power nearly gone, and gave her a tired smile. See? He murmured. Told you we'd figure it out. Medical and xenobiology arrived faster than Elias expected. A team in insulated hazard suits rolled in heaters, thermal blankets, and a portable containment field carefully named, carefully worded, as if softer language could change what they had almost done. The girl shrank the moment she saw the equipment. Her breathing sped up. The cold trembled in the air, ready to surge again. Elias lifted a hand. Stop. Don't rush her. The lead xenobiologist, a tall Venari with glassy black eyes, paused. Human ward, you are not authorized to direct. She calms down when she feels safe, Elias cut in, voice still rough. You want her stable? Then you do this slow. For a second, the Venari looked like he might argue. Then he noticed. The frost line. Not spreading. Controlled. Understood, the xenobiologist said. Slow approach. A medic knelt several meters away and gently activated a heat emitter. Warm air flowed across the metal floor, but it stopped at the edge of the girls. Cold field, like two invisible forces meeting. The temperature sensors beeped, confused. She's generating a localized cryozone, the Venari murmured. Remarkable. Or terrified, Elias muttered back. The medic extended a thermal blanket with a grabbing tool, offering it without stepping closer. The girl stared at it, eyes darting between the blanket and the masked faces. She didn't reach for it. Elias leaned down near her ear. It's okay. It's warm, like the jacket. She looked up at him, searching his face for truth. Then, slowly, she nodded and pulled the blanket toward herself. The cold field shrank again. The medics moved in another step. Elias didn't. Let go of her hand. Let us scan her, the Venari said. Fine, Elias replied, but no restraints. No cages. No entity. Talk. The Venari hesitated, then gave a stiff nod. A scanning wand hummed, projecting a soft light over the girl's body. The station air filled with quiet beeps. The xenobiologist's head tilted. That can't be correct. What? Elias asked. The Venari adjusted the scanner, ran it again, then went still. His voice lowered. Her internal structure isn't matching any juvenile pattern. Elias frowned. What does that mean? It means, the Venari said carefully, that her bones are older than her body appears. Much older. Elias felt a strange chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Older how? The scanner beeped again, highlighting something in the girl's chest, a dense cluster of tissue near her heart. The medic leaned in to check the reading. There's a device. A device? Elias repeated. The girl's eyes widened. She clutched the jacket and blanket tighter, like she understood the word, even if she didn't understand the language. The Venari pulled up a holo display. It's not external. It was implanted. Deep, very deep. Elias's stomach sank. Who implants anything in a kid? The Venari didn't answer. He didn't have to. Smugglers. Experimenters. Private. Labs that lived in the dark corners of the trade lanes. The scanner beeped again, and this time the display translated what it could. A faded identification line flickered across the holo. Specimen. Aurora -9. Elias stared. Specimen? They. Word hit harder than eliminate. The girl made a small sound, like a whimper she tried to swallow. Her cold field trembled. Frost crawled across Elias's bare hand. He squeezed her fingers gently. Hey, it's okay. I'm here. The Venari kept reading, eyes narrowing. It's not just an implant. Her physiology has been altered. Layered. Explain, Elias said. The xenobiologist swallowed. Her apparent age is misleading. She's been modified to remain small, to appear harmless. But her cryofield output potential. He paused. Elias's voice sharpened. How much? The Venari's throat bobbed. Enough to drop a ship's core temperature below operating limits. Enough to flash freeze an engine room. Enough to kill everyone on a small station if uncontrolled. The medic stepped back instinctively. The first guard stiffened and raised his rifle again. The girl saw it, and fear flooded her face. The cold surged outward like a wave. The nearest heat emitter frosted over instantly. Lights flickered. Metal creaked. The portable containment unit screamed an overload warning. Elias threw his arms around her without thinking, pulling her against his chest, jacket and blanket between them. It's okay, he hissed into her ear. Breathe. Look at me. Look at me. She shook, panicked, eyes darting, as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. As if she had always known they would eventually learn what she was capable of. And then she whispered, so softly Elias barely heard it. Not monster. Those two words broke him. I know, Elias said fiercely. You're not. But the twist wasn't over. Because as the cold field surged, the implanted device inside her chest lit up on the scanner, suddenly active, pulsing with a signal that wasn't medical yet. The Venari's eyes widened. That's a transmitter. The guard barked. Transmitter to who? The holo display shifted, catching a new data stream as the device woke fully. A location ping. Docking ring 12. Station K47. Target confirmed. Elias's blood ran colder than her frost. They didn't abandon her, he said slowly, understanding crashing into him like a hull breach. They planted her. The girl wasn't just a lost child. She was bait. And somewhere out in the dark, beyond the station hull, something that had been waiting for that signal had just turned its nose toward K47. Fast, hungry, and coming straight for them. The station alarms changed. Not the slow warnings of low heat or failing power. These were sharp, rising, urgent. Incoming vessel. No transponder. High mass. High speed. Docking control shouted over every channel at once. Unidentified ship. On intercept vector. All personnel to emergency stations. The guards turned toward the corridor, suddenly unsure what they were supposed to protect anymore. The medics froze. The xenobiologist stared at the glowing signal pulsing from the device inside the girl's chest. Elias didn't move. "She's the beacon," he said quietly. "They're coming for her." The girl looked up at him, confused by the noise, by the fear in every direction. Her cold field trembled again, reacting to the rising panic around them. "If they get here," the first guard said, "they'll take the specimen." Specimen. Elias shook his head. "They'll take a kid." Through the open ring, the distant thud of magnetic clamps failing echoed like thunder. The unknown ship wasn't requesting docking permission. It was forcing entry. "They used her as a tracker," Ivanari said. "A living locator. When her stress levels spike, the transmitter activates. So every time she was scared," Elias muttered, "she was calling them." The girl's eyes filled with tears. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. She shook her head again and again, trying to make herself smaller, trying to disappear. "Hey," Elias said, kneeling in front of her despite his shaking legs. "Look at me. None of this is your fault." The station lights dimmed as power, rerouted to shields that would not hold. "We have to remove the device," the medic said. "No time," the Venari replied. "It's bonded to her nervous system. Extraction would kill her." The impact hit a moment later. A deep metal shattering. Boom rolled through the station. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere far down the ring, a bulkhead collapsed with a scream of tearing steel. "They're boarding," the guard said, voice tight. The girl clutched Elias's sleeve, her breathing fast again, the cold starting to surge. If she panicked, the signal would spike. If the signal spiked, the boarders would know exactly where to go. Elias closed his eyes for 1 second, thinking. Then he did the most human thing possible. He took off his remaining glove and placed his bare hand gently over the place in her chest where the scanner had shown the implant. The cold was instant and brutal, flooding into him like frozen water, stealing his breath. But he didn't pull away. "Listen to me," he said, forcing the words out through chattering teeth. "You're not a weapon. You're not bait. You're not what they made you." Her eyes locked on his. "You're just a kid who got left alone," he continued. "And you don't have to be scared anymore." The cold stabilized. The signal on the hollow flickered. "Her stress levels are dropping," the Venari said, stunned. "The transmitter output is decreasing." Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor now, not station guards. Something heavier, armored. They were close. Elias didn't look back. "Breathe with me," he whispered to her. Slow, like before. She copied him. In, out, the frost stopped spreading. The holo display showed the signal shrinking, weakening, collapsing into static. "Signal lost," the Venari said. "They can't track her." A roar of anger echoed from down the ring as the boarders realized their target had vanished from their scanners. Elias finally turned his head toward the guards. "Get her to a shuttle. Kill all external data. Make it look like she never existed." "And you?" the first guard asked. Elias gave a tired smile. "Someone has to slow them down." The girl shook her head violently, grabbing his arm with both hands. The cold surged, not from fear this time, but from something else. Refusal. He crouched in front of her one last time. "Hey, remember what you asked me?" Her voice trembled. "Safe?" "Yeah," he said softly. "Safe means you get to live. You get to be more than what they made you." He pulled the jacket tighter around her shoulders and gently placed her small hand into the medic's insulated gloves. "She's not a specimen," he told them. "She's a passenger." Another crash shook the ring. The boarders were almost there. The guards formed a defensive line. The medics lifted the girl carefully, thermal blankets wrapped around her, moving toward the evacuation corridor. She looked back at him, eyes wide, glowing faintly in the dim light. Elias raised a hand and gave a small wave. For a moment, the cold around her softened, like a winter morning, instead of a storm. Then she did something no scanner could measure. She reached out, not with her hands, but with her control. A gentle, controlled wave of cold spread down the corridor behind Elias, forming a wall of thick ice that sealed the passage between him and the approaching boarders. Not wild, not deadly, just enough to slow them. A choice. Her choice. Elias laughed weakly. See? Not a monster. The last thing he saw before the ice closed the gap was her being carried toward the shuttle, wrapped in warmth, surrounded by people who now looked at her with something very different from fear. Respect, later. Long after the boarders were driven off by station security and the unknown ship fled without its prize, docking ring 12 was no longer avoided. A small maintenance plaque appeared on the wall where the frost had once spread. It didn't mention curses. It didn't mention weapons. It simply read, "Humans stopped here, so someone else could live." And somewhere out among the trade lanes, on a small civilian transport with its transponder scrubbed clean, a little alien girl slept for the first time without fear, wrapped in a patched human jacket that was far too big for her. When she dreamed, the cold was gentle, and in her dream, a tired human voice told her again and again, "You're safe."